Hello everyone, it is I, the elusive Wheatfield Mama. Thank you for stopping by and checking out this video. Today I will be filming a Q&A that I requested questions for on my Instagram. Before I jump into the Q&A, I just wanted to do a little backstory because I used to have a YouTube channel where I made videos about homesteading when I still lived on my parents' land. And my intention with that was to show the process of moving forward and purchasing my own land. But obviously, life stuff's in the way. And I, since then, got married, have 2 babies, and I bought a house this year. We bought a house this year, so not a homestead yet, but we're working towards that. And I've been really inspired to create content for a long time, just surrounding family and marriage. And I guess I should mention that I am 23 years old, married, mom of 2 now, and like I said, we just bought a house. So my husband is also 23. We're, young pups out here learning as we go. So like I was saying, there just seems to be this shift, really sort of an attack on the family, attack on generational ties, and that started a long time ago. But before we might have considered, the status quo was get your career, get married, have children, whatever. And now it's like, just forget about having a family, is what it seems like. And especially right now, with all the COVID whatever, and just the way the world is going, it can feel very discouraging to people who really just want to start a family, to do it right now. Like, it seems like, why, my friend even said to me when I told her I was pregnant, she said, how stupid could you be to get pregnant during an international pandemic? And I read a really beautiful article. I'll share the link to it somewhere. This guy just talks about how he found his wife, they found themselves pregnant with their 4th child, like right at the hit of COVID happening in America. And he fast forwards to this year saying how they didn't really know if they were going to go forward with their 4th child. They didn't know, and he just cries thinking of how beautiful his daughter is and how there's nothing in the world that would change his mind about going forward. And I'm going to cry if I keep talking about it, so I'm going to stop. But the article is so beautiful, and I really encourage anyone to read it. I became pregnant in April of 2020. We had been trying for a few months, like before COVID had made it to America, before everyone was losing their jobs, before we had to move out of our apartment, before we could move into our house. All these things were happening, and I felt pregnant, and there was no question, obviously. Like, there was absolutely no question. Like, that's what we wanted. But it was a very hard time. So that's that. That's the backstory. I don't even know where I'm going with this video. It's supposed to be a Q&A. The first topic I'm going to start with is just pregnancy in general. So this was my 2nd pregnancy, and I had, at the beginning of my pregnancy, my son was 19 months old, so it was a totally different ball game. I didn't have morning sickness, but I had a lot of fatigue. I was so tired, and I just felt so weak. Like, sometimes I couldn't even carry my son because I just literally just felt like my arms were so tired. But that was just the first trimester. Of course, I had food aversions and stuff, and just overall tiredness, and my brain was gone. I lost my phone. I lost all my passwords. Just no brain. Forgetful. Lock your keys in the car, lock your keys in the house, lock yourself out of the house. Just that kind of stuff. So my first pregnancy, I right away went to what I thought was traditional midwives, 2 traditional midwives that I hired, and my birth with my son ended up as an emergency transfer from a home birth to the hospital They told me that it was due to variations in his heart tone that didn't look good. I believe it was just because my midwife, I don't know, she didn't want to stay around for a very long 38-hour labor is what it, what it turned out to be. She was only there for 7 hours of it, but that is what it comes out to. My second pregnancy, I really stuck it out to find a truly traditional midwife. I even considered not having a midwife at all, but I did have some fears surrounding that, and I felt better having a midwife. So I found my midwife, and it was so perfect. She had one spot left for my due date month, and she lives 10 minutes from my house, and she's like the most amazing woman ever. And I think that really, truly traditional midwifery is something that we need to have more people follow in the paths of, because it's a dying skill if it's not already on its way out the door. Not really, like, I thought about providing a disclaimer with this video that, I chose home birth, that's right for me, but what it comes down to, as far as all of these ideas surrounding motherhood or parenthood, and birth and breastfeeding and all this stuff is, first of all, they want us to be divided. They want us to argue about whatever. If you feed your baby formula, you're a bad mom. They want us to argue all about these things. They want us to be divided. They don't want us to have a connection. And so personally, I feel very strongly that yes, our bodies were designed, women's bodies were designed to have a baby, and as long as you are healthy, you don't have any health concerns, there's absolutely no reason why you can't have a healthy pregnancy and go on to breastfeed. But I'm not going, I'm not going to disregard anyone's feelings or beliefs or whatever and just cut off ties with them unless that's how you feel, just because we have differing opinions. So yes, this is about home birth and breastfeeding and all things crunchy and whatever the derogatory terms are for it. My mom says bark eater. So that is my brief disclaimer, just in case anyone's out there concerned. Ultimately, just do whatever you feel is right for you. So, starting with my pregnancy, I didn't have that many comments, or I didn't have that many questions about pregnancy. This being my second pregnancy, I felt like I knew the ropes. I felt like I had things. I did so much research during my first pregnancy that this pregnancy I felt comfortable with all the facts that I knew, that I could just focus on fear clearing any anxieties that I had, and then just avoiding any information, like avoiding the scary stories from other people, avoiding the medical trickery, I feel like, anything like that. I knew that I was absolutely healthy, that my body was capable of carrying this pregnancy, and that I was 100% capable of being able to birth my baby peacefully in my own home without any question. And that's what I did. My son is now, he's gonna be 4 weeks old tomorrow, so I'm living it. I'm here to tell the tale. Prenatal supplements. I did take a prenatal vitamin. It's called Nature's Way. I chose it because it's produced locally. Most prenatal vitamins, affordable ones, they have too much folic acid and just too high of certain vitamins that you don't necessarily need. Like, my body grabs calcium really easily, so I actually have an abundance of calcium, which is not necessarily good, but it's almost impossible to find a prenatal vitamin that doesn't have calcium. So I took it, not every single day, but most days I took this prenatal vitamin. And mostly I looked for one that I only had to take 2 a day. Less than 2 a day was really what I was looking for, but it's not perfect. However, my midwife, as amazing as she was, made this blend of tea for me and requested that I drank a quart every single day throughout my entire pregnancy. And I will share in a picture maybe the ingredients to this. And her belief was that as long as you consistently drink this tea properly, which means you steep it overnight and drink it throughout the next day so that all the vitamins and minerals are really rich and it's very concentrated within the tea, that you wouldn't need any prenatal vitamin. I'm just saying I don't have a perfect diet. We steer towards just eating as clean as possible, trying to avoid processed foods, but really I'm not perfect in any regard. With that, your body can't absorb all the vitamins and minerals, so that was too long to talk about a prenatal supplement, I think. Tips for preparing yourself for pregnancy. This is something I did with both of my pregnancies, very intentionally, taking care of yourself, and just treating yourself as if you are your child. Taking care of yourself, really mentally prepare yourself. Eating healthy, exercising, creating a very supportive community around you. That's one thing that I wish I would have prepared, was more of a community. Obviously not possible for me in the COVID days right now. My community was shattered with all of the crazy quarantine stuff. I really had no one to turn to besides my husband and a couple friends online. I wish I had been able to create more of a community that was supportive of home birth and just my parenting philosophies. So that's one thing really with pregnancy that I felt I was lacking, was community. 6 months before you're pregnant, really focus on, detoxifying any shit. Don't drink alcohol, don't smoke, don't take medications, heavy metals, all that stuff. It's good to just cut it out of your life, and go forward, especially birth control. That stuff can really screw with your fertility and stuff. So I'm not going to get into all that today, but that is definitely a start. And really just treating yourself as if you were pregnant already. 6 months before your pregnancy, really. Just really take care of yourself before you're pregnant, and then focus on having a very conscious conception and calling your baby in to your life. Make sure your partner is on board, obviously, but it is really just so beautiful having a conscious conception and knowing that time that you are with your partner is meant to bring new children into this world. And I really believe that any of these little children that are coming to us now, they are strong, and they are bringers of light that are coming to be able to face the challenges that are ahead. So many people will straight out say, I'm just not having kids because this world is so messed up. But I really believe that these little souls that are coming right now, it's our responsibility right now to protect them and to take care of them and to raise them with the emotional competency to be able to handle the future, but not our responsibility to make them afraid of the future, nor is it in our hands to decide not to bring them into the world just because we believe the future is going to be worse off. So that's my 4-minute advice. Moving on to home birth. Let's see. Tips for planning a home birth, my number one tip is to clear your fears, any anxieties, any fear you have surrounding birth, pregnancy, surrounding stories that you have been told your entire life. For me, that meant understanding that I am not broken. I was not born to have to go to a doctor to be told that I'm healthy. I know that I am healthy. I know that I eat well. I exercise. I'm happy. I know how I feel when I'm healthy. I don't need a doctor to tell me that I'm healthy. You know, if you're taking care of yourself, there's no reason to believe otherwise, that you can't carry your pregnancy and follow through with a beautiful home birth. Second, preparing for home birth. There's so many things that, as the home birth movement sort of comes back, kind of comes to light, and more people are sharing their home births. You know, there's all these supplies that you can buy. There's all these exercises that people recommend, or classes, or stuff like that. But after my first pregnancy and going through all the motions of preparing for a home birth and then leading into an emergency transfer, really just fear clearing, taking all the anxieties out of the room, and trusting yourself and not putting all of your trust in someone else, like in a midwife or a doctor, was what it came down to for me. Nobody told me maybe it won't hurt. Maybe birth doesn't have to be painful. No one ever told me that growing up. My mom always said, it's the most painful thing you'll ever go through in your life. I'll tell you, I broke my ankle when I was in 7th grade. That hurt more than having a baby. I've had 2 babies now. Breaking my ankle hurt a lot more than 38 hours of labor. Breaking my ankle hurt more than being a very petite woman and pushing out a 9-pound, 10-ounce baby. I have inspiration to share that I did not think that my labor and delivery was painful with this birth. It was not easy. I don't know, it was a lot easier than my first labor, but because I walked myself through the motions of not being afraid, there was nothing to be afraid of, and there was no resistance to my contractions. There was no resistance to the baby moving through my body, and because of that, it didn't hurt. Fear clear. That is my advice. So many really sweet comments. Home birth for newbies. If you don't have any health complications, there's no reason why you can't consider a home birth. I don't think, there's no reason why you can't consider home birth. Really, like I said, it really just comes down to mentally preparing yourself, because your mind really is the game. It's just all about your mind. Do I sound crazy? With the first birth, you might feel more like you don't know what to expect. And even with my second birth, my first birth, I had an epidural that kicked in right before I pushed. And so with my second birth, I felt I did have to work on that fear. Like, what if it hurts? What if I feel the ring of fire when I'm pushing the baby out? What if I tear? What are, like, all these questions I had, what ifs. I had to work on clearing that fear. And so with a first pregnancy, you don't know what to expect. So maybe it feels more comfortable to be in a hospital. But it really, all of home birth versus hospital birth versus birth center birth really breaks down to your personality and where you feel most comfortable. My recommendation for first-time moms, where do you feel safe? Where do you feel most comfortable? Where do you feel the most comfortable to be able to stand completely naked and produce a bowel movement in front of someone? Like, that is really, for me, that meant only my husband and my midwife my mom, mother-in-law, grandmas. I knew that they had anxieties about birth, and I didn't want them around because I'm really sensitive to other people's energy. So in a hospital, I had 4 nurses, 2 doctors, and a midwife, and my husband, and it was absolute chaos, and I felt so scared and so anxious. So where do you feel most comfortable and safe? And after that, what stories have you been told in your life about birth and how scary it is or how wonderful it is? Break those down and just kind of clear the air. When I was a little girl, my grandma always told me that her mom almost died giving birth to her sister. Literally, my great-grandmother was totally unconscious. They presumed her dead. They put a sheet over her body, and they sent her to be sent to the morgue. And the nurse, there were nuns in the hospitals, in a Catholic hospital. This nun just really felt called to go and see if she could get the baby out. And here was my great-grandmother covered with a sheet completely, like over her head. They thought she was dead. They just said she's gone. The baby's crowning and just coming out by itself, because that's really what the process is about. And upon the immersion, my great-grandmother came to, and she was absolutely fine. There was nothing. She went on to have 2 more kids, I guess, is the end of the story. So I was always told, like, oh my God, your grandma almost died. And then being told, after that, my grandma at 19, having my dad with no problems, her water broke at home. She went to the hospital. She almost had the baby in the wheelchair on the way to the room, but yet they inject you with ether and pour iodine all over your body, and they strap you down to this metal table. And why? If you were about to have the baby in the waiting room, they still had to do all of those things, make you vomit profusely from these awful drugs, and make you scared as hell. I don't think there was no reason for it, and that is what we have to break down as a society. In America, we have the leading number of infant mortality of first world countries, I'm going to say. I'm not sure 100% about that statistic, but the majority of births in America happen in hospitals. Yet here we are with the highest number of stillbirths, the highest number of interventions, and the highest number of infant mortality. I'm going to say of first world countries because I don't know exactly that statistic, but where's the problem? The problem is not with home birth. The problem is with the dogma of the medical systems, and I could go on with that for hours, really. What's next? I believe first-time moms can absolutely have a home birth. Complications they start up here. Not just for you as the first-time mom. That is my newborn producing a bowel movement. Not just for you as the first-time mom. The complications start in your mind, but also as a midwife, the complications start in your midwife's mind. I absolutely believe that if there is truly something wrong, someone who's truly intuitive and trusts themselves is going to know. Yeah, my other advice with home birth is just, if you feel weird about your midwife, interview another one. Try to get to know as many people as possible. So that leads me to another question about home birth that I just remembered. What the options are if you can't find a midwife. Statistically, there is 1 midwife for every 200-mile radius. So that's pretty small chance that you're going to find a midwife. There are people who practice as midwives, but they are not licensed, and they don't call themselves midwives. They call themselves birth keepers. So that's an option. Another option is really a someone who is comfortably trained as a doula that would stand in as a midwife. For legal purposes, if you can't find a midwife and you feel called to go to have a free birth. Free birth is the idea that you just do it, just like Mary in the stable with Jesus. Just do it on your own. There, in some states or countries, there are laws surrounding that. So if that's something that concerns you, I would recommend that you just go to a few prenatal appointments with an obstetrician or even just a family doctor. And remember that you are the keeper of your temple. You are the one that makes the decisions. You are allowed to refuse every single test. You are allowed to refuse any medical interventions. You are allowed to refuse everything that might make you, that might prevent you from being able to use your insurance, or your doctor might say, I won't work with you. All these things are true. When I had an emergency transfer to the hospital, with my first birth, I never one time visited the hospital. I never saw an obstetrician. I only worked through my midwives. They had my records from the beginning of my pregnancy, just like measurements and a blood test that I took. I refused all other tests. I refused the group strep B test. I refused the diabetes test. I don't even know what all the tests are because my midwives only offered the 3 most common. And with my second pregnancy, I signed a waiver that said, just don't touch me. So with that first pregnancy, all I did was call the hospital and say, hi, I would like to pre-register myself in the event that I have an emergency transfer to the hospital for my home birth. Obviously, in states where home birth is not legal, can't do that. But that's all I did. It was really simple. I had already been to that hospital before. There was an emergency, and I went to the hospital, and there was no problems. I've heard awful horror stories of people having to be subjected to drug tests, and that's pretty much why I recommend the visiting the hospital a couple times throughout your pregnancy if you feel like that's what you need to do, because in the event of a real emergency, certain hospitals might look at you like you are absolutely psycho, and they might try to do things like take your child, have CPS come in and interrogate you. I'm not trying to put any fear on you, but those are possibilities. So yeah, moving on. There are other options. The emergency room is, they're just going to send you to labor and delivery. If it's a hospital close by, like if I was going to have a free birth, we live 9 minutes from the hospital. Like not even 9 minutes. Like I could walk in labor to the hospital if I really had to. So that's something to consider. If you live rurally, obviously, like ambulances are really expensive, so you don't want to go in an ambulance. So those are just things to consider. Again, what's your personality? Where do you feel most comfortable? And how does your partner feel about it as well? Because, what it comes down to, your partner's not the person giving birth. Your husband's not giving birth. But your husband's probably going to be there supporting you, and if he is anxious, you're going to feel that. And it's all in here. So, next question. I think I'm going to move on from home birth, really. I plan on telling my birth story. Next question is surrounding tandem nursing. The first question is, did I stop breastfeeding anytime while trying to conceive? And I did not. I actually, when you breastfeed, consistently, there's sometimes you don't get your cycle back. Sometimes you don't ovulate for many, many, many months. For me, I did not get my period back until I was 18 months postpartum. So that's a pretty long time. I mean, that's over a year. So when my son was 18 months old is when, sorry, he was 16 months old is when I got my cycle back. I ovulated for 3 months, and then I got pregnant when he was 18 months. And so that was I felt so happy to have a whole year, 2 years of my life without having to go through having a menstrual cycle. And then I only had it for 3 months before having another year at least without it. So I didn't stop breastfeeding, trying to conceive. However, it does screw up your cycle. It's nature's birth control. It's not 100% effective, obviously, but it prolongs your cycle to prepare your body to be able to replenish all the nutrients. Ideally, I believe they say you should wait 2 years in between children to really fully replenish just your whole yin-yang situation. So I breastfed. Someone asked if I lost my milk supply during pregnancy. I didn't lose my milk supply at all during pregnancy. I breastfed my entire pregnancy. Around 35 weeks is when I started with my son. We stopped nursing during the day and only and at night. The intention was to wean him completely because I had a lot of ideas surrounding weaning. I felt really alone and kind of crazy that I would even consider nursing a 2-year-old and a newborn at the same time. But ultimately it came down to him really not being ready to be done nursing, and neither was I. I felt like he still was benefiting nutritionally and developmentally. He really is still benefiting from our relationship with that. So what I did, just because of exhaustion and also welcoming, around 35 weeks, we stopped nursing during the day, and at night we nursed once before bed. And I think in the morning when he woke up, because sometimes he'll wake up at like 5 a.m., that's the only way he'll get back to sleep. So we just started a routine where it was clear that he only could nurse before bed and in the morning if he woke up too early. And then welcoming a newborn, I was very transparent with him that when the new baby comes, babies only get milk. That is all babies eat. They don't get to eat fun food like pizza and apples and grapes and get to drink juice. Like, babies only are allowed to have milk. That's all their tummies can handle. And so I told him that he would not be able to nurse once the baby came for 4 days. And I don't know, it was a very obscure amount of days, but I really wanted to make sure that my new baby would get as much colostrum, and also just after labor and everything, just not having to worry about my 2-year-old needing me as much. And that worked. My midwife actually, wasn't clear with her. She knew that I was still nursing throughout my entire pregnancy. She had 11 children, and she did that throughout her entire 11 children. So she knew that I was still nursing, and she actually was surprised when I mentioned to her that that I was not nursing my 2-year-old for a few days after my newborn came. And she said that there was no reason, because my milk supply never went away. There was no reason to stop nursing him for a few days even. And that what they recommend is that you stick to each child has one side. So my newborn got the left side and my toddler got the right side. Now, hindsight is 2020. You should put your newborn on your non-dominant side. I'm left-handed, so I can't eat nursing because he's always on the left side. And the reason is, in 48 hours, your body can tell each side, each breast is making completely different milk. My right side is making a more watery, higher water content breast milk than my left side is making a very rich, thick, fatty colostrum milk. And it's absolutely amazing how in just 48 hours, like, our bodies work. They are designed for this. And back in the day, women tandem nurse their babies. There was no other option. Obviously, goat milk, whatever. So with my first baby, he never, throughout his entire life, he would never take a bottle. He would never take a pacifier. And so not having that, like, nursing to get to sleep as part of our sleeping routine, I offered him a bottle with cow's milk, which he already was, like, he had cow's milk, like, at dinner. We have it out of a cup. But just to have that connection of being able to have that comfort to get to sleep. Because this is a very big change for toddlers. At 30 months old, some kids don't even talk yet. So just to have that connection still, there are some things that happen. That's kind of the next question is tandem nursing. Tandem nursing and exhaustion. Is your older one jealous at all? And is your older one helping take care of your younger? So with tandem nursing, well, with the introduction of a newborn and having a toddler who's 30 months old, who previously, my world revolved solely around him, there's obviously going to be, a little bit of, I wouldn't say he's jealous. I would not say he's jealous. If anything, he just feels like he just misses me at times. Like, he misses that connection. And so tandem nursing, absolutely, like, after those first 3 days where we didn't do any tandem nursing, what actually led to me stopping the 4 days was that I was so engorged and my newborn was just sleeping. And I was like, all right, that's it. I need some help here. My firstborn was a little apprehensive to come around to my newborn and just really accept, like, this guy is here to stay. So once they tandem nursed, that first connection where I had both of them, one on each breast, my firstborn just looked at my newborn and he held his hand and touched his face. I'm gonna cry. And there's nothing, that was the spark. And now there is an undeniable relationship between the two of them. There is an undeniable love and connection. And that was the one thing keeping me from weaning my firstborn, was because I felt so strongly that because of my firstborn's personality, there would be that sense of really deep sense of loss for him to watch his baby brother get to have that connection with me, and just for him to be completely cut off. So there is absolutely a beautiful spark that happens when you nurse two children, brothers. And it's not for everyone, but there was a spark there, and that's why I'm crying. But so I don't regret it at all. For the first day afterwards, I was like, oh my gosh, what if I made a mistake? What if he was on his way to weaning? But a baby on a bottle's not weaned. A baby on a bottle is dependent on a bottle. You still have to wean the baby eventually from the bottle, and I didn't want to go through that either. So there are some things just when you have a toddler. Moving forward with the toddler comments, I guess. The next question is just how my toddler's handling things. With tandem nursing and exhaustion, how do I manage? We still are keeping our routine of only nursing before bedtime and in the morning when he wakes up, if he asks. That's basically what I've kept it to, is if he asks, being very clear, saying yes or no. I never say no. I keep the language and I say yes, but later. So that really just keeps him from, obviously, first of all, having a total meltdown, but also understanding that I'm not cutting him off. Like, he might have that fear a little bit that I'm just going to cut him off. And just being really transparent. Like, your children understand if you talk to them and you say, mommy's really tired right now. Or, you know, with having a newborn, you might be engorged, or you might just be feeling sore, and just explaining to them, hey, I'm feeling really sore right now, we have to wait. And so that's been how it's been going. There's been a little regression, is that the word? With potty training, like, he was doing really good, and then once the baby came, he was like, more diapers, please. So that was one thing I noticed. And also, he normally drinks out of a glass, just a normal glass or a mug, never spills or anything. But now he's like, kind of like, Mom, will you hold my glass so that I can drink out of it? Because he wants that connection, and it's really sweet. Or if he has his bottle, occasionally he'll ask for a bottle, just when he's feeling like they want to be the baby again, you know. He'll ask me or my husband to hold his bottle in his mouth for him, and it's really sweet, and it lasts like 5 minutes, and then he's back to being his normal rambunctious self, jumping off the couch. So there are little things that you can expect like that, and really just take it day by day, and don't be overwhelmed, and just really consider that your toddler's not going to forever be stuck in this state of wanting to be the baby. Like, there is so many exciting things about growing up that they get to do, and it's just a phase. Nothing lasts forever. Wow, this is 50 minutes long, and I have not even got through all the questions yet. Do I talk too much? How did it feel going from loving one baby to two? After my first pregnancy, I was really worried about this, knowing that I wanted more children. And knowing how deeply I loved my first, I really, in my postpartum blues, like, I just cried thinking, how could I ever love someone more? But in my pregnancy with my second, I didn't feel that way at all. I felt like I could love them equally. And what it came down to ultimately was telling myself, if I had to be trapped on an island with one other person and I had to pick my mom, my dad, or my brother, who would I choose? And absolutely, always the question goes down to picking my brother. I love my brother so much. We're 18 months apart. And really growing up, he was my best friend. So if you're feeling that way, like, oh my gosh, my child is going to feel like I love my new baby more than the other. It might feel like that at first, but really eventually they're going to love their sibling more. And maybe you have a different experience. Not everyone loves their siblings, but ideally that is the kind of family relationship that I want to nurture, is, you know, this is your best buddy. You guys are going to be tied for life. So they're 30 months apart. It's a little bit of an age gap, not really, but next summer they're going to be running around together and butting heads. You know, it's so exciting to welcome a brotherhood. It's really special, and I'm really excited to have more children in the future. My older one is absolutely helping take care of my younger boy. He loves, like, if I really just getting them involved is part of it, but he's so helpful naturally anyways. He wants to help doing everything. So, like, I ask him to bring me a diaper, I ask him to bring me the wipes, and I never ever pressure him to do those things. So if I say, hey, can you do this? And he says no, I'm not like, do it right now. Like, I'm not going to force him to help, just try to kind of naturally want him to help. And he actually requests now to help change the baby's diaper, and even asks to wipe the baby's butt, and he just, like, is so excited. And it's really, I think, important to sort of foster those wants to help. And with toddlers, especially 2-year-olds, like, that's a really good management plan is to welcome their wants to help you, and always have something they can help with, like, hey, can you hold the diaper bag? Can you open the door for me? Can you buckle your seatbelt? Can you, even if they're little tiny things where it's not actually helpful, but just making them think that they're being helpful, like, hey, can you throw this in the garbage? Like, always having those tasks, it really makes them feel involved, and it helps you either way. And then hopefully, you're fostering them to become better helpers eventually as they get older. So absolutely, anytime the baby's crying, my firstborn asks me if everything's okay, or he says, I'm here, baby, it's okay. Big brother's here, and it's so sweet, and I don't know, it's really magical, I swear. So wonderful. What are my thoughts on child training and discipline? I touched on this a little bit, that I really like the philosophy of attachment style parenting. And with child discipline, I like to approach things from a very respectful standpoint, not treating my child as if they are lower to me, but treating my children as if they are equals. Because I really believe that part of this messed up world we live in happened because our parents often treat us like we're maybe animals, or just, that our feelings and our opinions and our ideas are not worthy because we are children. So I really work to try to untrain myself of what my parents taught me. I don't believe in spanking. I don't believe really even in yelling. We try not to yell. There are times where I lose my cool and I do yell, but just apologizing to your child after that happens. Training, we don't do sleep training. At meal times, I don't make him take a bite of everything on his plate. I really just try to encourage a trust between us, and also before I discipline, I consider that I want to have a connection. I want to connect with my child before they are afraid of me. I don't want my child to fear me. I want my child to connect with me and trust me, and hopefully, in the grand scheme of things, when they're a teenager someday, that makes them feel like they can come to me for anything. When I was growing up, I was terrified to tell my parents anything, and sometimes that led me in really crappy situations because I was sneaking out, or I was getting involved with the wrong crowd because I was afraid to tell them anything, because I was afraid to get in trouble or discipline. And as far as discipline goes, like, you just have to stick with your word. I don't know. I really believe that we need to create, you're the mom, you're the dad. Like, you need to come at it from a perspective of what I think this is Janet Lansbury always says, like, be the CEO. Like, don't attach your emotions and don't be offended by your children, how they are acting, especially when they're toddlers. They can't control their impulses. They don't understand the concept of respect. And if you aren't respecting your child and their limitations, then they will never respect you. So that's my belief. I'm going to go, that could be for, that could go on for hours. Do I nurse while the baby is in a sling? And if so, how? I've watched tutorials on how to nurse a baby in a sling because there's nothing more annoying than getting your newborn all wrapped up in, say, like a Moby wrap or a stretchy wrap, and then, they're hungry again. You have to unwrap it all and then try to nurse, and basically just kind of like take it off halfway. I've not found a way, until a baby's older and they can hold their heads up, like around toddler age, even like maybe it's like 9 months. I can't really remember with my first, but I could lower the baby sling. What I like to use is Ergo Baby wrap, a structured wrap. That's what I use for older kids, and I have been able to lower it, and then they can nurse and then still be in the sling. I don't recommend walking around like that because it will kill your back. With newborns, I have kind of figured that you can support their head at the breast and have their bum still be in the sling and hold their legs, so you can at least get something done, especially with 2 kids. Like, you want to sit down and relax and have proper posture and all these things while you're nursing, but you know, you gotta help your kid put their shoes on or whatever, you know, like you can't just stop your day. You can try, but it's really impractical. So being able to support their head with one hand and not have to support their legs and their bum is really helpful. Just leaving them sort of in the sling, just to support their butt, really. And I'm sure that's actually easier with a ring sling, but I've never tried a ring sling before. I just like to use a Moby wrap.
Unless you want to talk.
No, I'm making a video.
Right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm at the 1 hour point.
You're making a 1 hour video?
Well, I was hoping it would be like around 30 minutes, but I talk too much apparently.
We'll just do some quick cuts.
Yes. It's a Q&A, so I have to read the questions and then answer them. They're like actual questions that people sent me.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. Are there any pregnancy intervention things that you didn't choose to do? I did answer this in the beginning of the video, I think. I did absolutely nothing. I didn't have any ultrasounds. All I let my midwife do was weigh me, take my iron levels, because I have a history of anemia, and measure my belly. And then we also use the Doppler occasionally, but mostly she just stuck with a fetoscope, and it was absolutely heaven for me. And it was really nice. With the Doppler, you can't always hear with the fetoscope, especially in the early days, and that was really nice with my toddler. Although it's the same, like probably very similar technology to ultrasounds, the Doppler is. It was nice for my 2-year-old to actually hear the baby's heartbeat and understand that, hey, there's a baby in there. And it's his brother. How exciting. How do you keep wardrobe minimal without being totally sparse? Baby wardrobe. This was a little challenging because I saved all of my firstborn's clothes. He was a summer baby. He was born in July. My secondborn was born in January. So the newborn clothes I had from my firstborn were not practical for my secondborn. The only clothes I keep are the high quality things that aren't going to get holes in them and stuff. But really, if you have a washing machine, you don't need that much. With my firstborn, we didn't have a washing machine, and doing laundry every other day was not practical. So he did have a lot more clothes. I don't know is that helpful advice? And also with my wardrobe, if I can't be pregnant and wear it, or nurse and wear it, I'm not going to own it. I have a lot of trouble with this because I still have a ton of clothes that don't fit me at all now because I'm a very petite person and that's not happening during pregnancy. So especially with having to live in a climate where it's either extremely hot or extremely cold, it's a little tricky to balance it all. But if you are thrifty, you will figure it out. And nobody's going anywhere looking, like you can get dressed for yourself at home and for your husband, but with COVID right now, like what do? Go to the grocery store? Do you go to the post office? That's about it. Tips on adjusting from 2 babies, from just having 1. Really making time, like picking a nap time during the day, and this always doesn't work out, but having time where you can really spend one-on-one time with their toddler doing exactly whatever they want to do. For my son, that means playing these crazy, drawn-out, very imaginative games, very repetitive, like we play with these little guys, and it just takes hours. The game could last for days, but just sitting down, making eye contact with them, and doing exactly what they want to do while the other one is sleeping or laying on the floor, whatever. That seems to be the best for him and also for me, because then he's less likely to be like, mom, 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 all day long if I do spend very intentional time. And every time you're doing something for your child, like whether it's, you're giving them a glass of water, you're making them a meal, you're changing their diaper, you're dressing them, you just make sure that your focus is 100% on them at that time, and that you're touching them gently and you're making eye contact and you're smiling and giving them, however you like to compliment them, or just listening to them. Those little moments where even you're just like wiping their butt at the toilet or helping them wash their hands, all making sure that those are connecting, gentle moments, makes it easier during the times of the day when you have to be helping your newborn and not giving them as much attention, because they feel so connected with you during those little moments where you're just wiping their butts. So that's next. First time mom, end of May. Congratulations. That's so exciting. I'm gonna cry. I'm so excited when anyone messages me saying, I'm pregnant, help. or just so many of my followers having babies is so exciting. I really, I love it. Best advice. Clear those fears. That is my best advice. I talked about it a lot. Oh, the last question I forgot to talk about is placenta. A couple of questions about placenta. What do you do with the placenta? We did do delayed cord clamping, whatever. There's all sorts of different methods that you can do, but with the placenta, for me, it was just easiest to have my midwife take it away, and she encapsulated it for me. This is what I did during my first pregnancy, just had the placenta encapsulated. However, with my first pregnancy, I was so sad in the hospital. They didn't even the doctor was showing my husband the placenta, and I really wanted to see it, but I didn't even get to look at my placenta. And my midwife told me that at the hospital, they took all of the cord off of the placenta before they packaged it and gave it to her to bring to her house where she processed the placenta. And so that was a little weird to me. Like, there's no reason they should have kept the cord. Which it doesn't matter, but I have a theory about stem cells in that situation. So I just had my midwife take it away. She dehydrates it and puts it into pills, and
they probably sold it.
They probably sold the umbilical cord. Yeah, that was my theory. Yeah, so that was really, I don't know, just seeing your placenta and being able, especially if you have a midwife, having them tell you about it is so interesting. And maybe for my next pregnancy, I would make art with it. Like, I would make a print. I think those are so beautiful. And I learned that you can take placenta from any one of your pregnancies. So I actually have placenta pills left over that I plant in the garden for my first pregnancy. I put in, just plant them in the ground. That's what some people do, is plant their placenta under a tree. If I had to do it myself, I don't have a dehydrator, but I probably would make capsules just because that's easiest. I would consider eating it in a smoothie. I would do that. It doesn't freak me out that bad. So I would do that, but it's just easier to have someone else take care of it when you're in those postpartum days. I knew my husband couldn't just chop it up and be able to make me a placenta smoothie probably. So if I had to, I would probably do that. But you wait a couple days before you consume the placenta. And now I take 2 pills with breakfast and 2 pills with lunch. And then after the first, I think it's 6 weeks, then I'll just take 1 with breakfast and dinner. Not dinner. Breakfast and lunch, because you're not supposed to take them after 3 p.m. because they totally are energizing. The whole reason I can make this video, because I took my placenta today. I do think it helps with the blues. My first pregnancy, I had the blues for 10 straight days, just crying at the same exact time every day for an hour. Everything made me cry. With this pregnancy, and I started taking the pills right after 10 days, because that's when I got them back. And that's when just my blues were over. Could be a coincidence, but I think that the placenta helped with that. And especially after this pregnancy, I had the blues for only about 6 days, and that's when I started taking my placenta. So for me, it did seem to help. But otherwise, as far as postpartum depression and anxiety, luckily don't really struggle with that. I will say I am more anxious during postpartum in general, having a baby in general. I am more anxious just like about certain scenarios, like even going to the grocery store, and I'm way more irritable, especially like when all my needs aren't being met. Like if I'm hungry, I am nuts. So just really stop in with yourself and ask yourself, like, how are things going? Have I eaten today? Have I drank water? When's the last time I went pee? Those kind of things are just ways to be able to keep your cool and get through the day. And it's not easy. Being a mom is not for the weak, but it is the most rewarding thing that anyone can ever experience in their life. I really believe that. It's amazing. So I hope that this video was interesting and encouraging, and hopefully I'll get through filming a couple different videos either today or next week. And thanks for watching. And that's all. Take care. Trust yourself, trust nature, trust God.